Mm, hello. Um. Oh. Uh, you can see the. You can see the sun rising through the window. You can see it's morning in Australia, huh? Good morning, America. This one's for you. Um, a lot of the world revolves around the USA these days. So let's let's put some things into perspective. Okay, smoker's cough is no good for you. So um, you can recover from a flu, but you'll get a little bit of smoker's cough. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the ideological background of your precious dark enlightenment um, from a different perspective. There were some ideas generated by the community over the course of the last 12 hours or so that actually we'll see how this pans out, okay, as an idea just by expressing it. So, what you're probably aware of in the States by now, if you've been following, is that this nerd right stuff with your different Afrikaners who've formed some kind of tech pro cartel and got their noses right up the backside of the US military and then become billionaires and then stage a fascist coup and all the rest in your country, okay? Okay, okay. We're doing some ha 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 blog thing, ideology, apparently, way back in the day, with some guy named Curtis Yarvin and Nick Hand or something like that, and they called it the Dark Enlightenment. And so the political ideology of that is based on the Wikipedia pages. Yuck. Okay. Basically, they believe in hyper racism, which is the first point of yuck. The second point of yuck is they believe something where there is a correlation between your income and your IQ, and obviously richer people are smarter. Also yuck, and it's definitely untrue, by the way. You can take that for granted. If you walk down the street and talk to anyone, you can rest assured that there are some pretty poor people who are very smart and some very rich people who are fucking tards. No offense to tards. Also, there are some tards who are smarter than those guys. Anyway, no, seriously. So, retardation doesn't mean to determine whether or not you're a good or bad person or smart. Go figure that one out. Well, if you could, you might have some qualifications. And obviously, Curtis Yarwood and Nick Hand didn't have any. And the guys that followed that were just a bunch of wankers. Okay, right? The other point of yuck that they had was, what was it? Oh, certain types of people were expendable and could be turned into biodiesel. Okay. Once you start getting ideas where um, any group in your society becomes expendable, um, let alone turned into what biodiesel, you're definitely in fascist territory. Okay. Well, are they going to say that poor people who aren't from the same ethnicity as them are soiling green? Like, come on, that's disgusting. Who is it, and what do you want? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully they didn't catch anyone's names. Um. um. Yeah. First thing in the morning. Sometimes neighbours say hi to each other. These things happen. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes people are friendly. Sometimes people are not. Anyway. So Anyway. Dave. Sorry. Back to the what was it? Dark Enlightenment. And the Dark Enlightenment Wikipedia page is disturbing. The conclusion might be that if you're not a white man who's rich, you're probably going to be turned into Soylent Green because you're considered stupid. Okay? So, automatically you can go, yeah, all right, and don't take that seriously. That's, how can you support something like that, right? That's pretty nasty. So, yeah, well, okay, back to the old proletariat versus the capitalist thing. Okay, ideologically, you'd probably then go, oh, well, who's going to work for you, mate, if you turn all those dumb poor people into Soylent Green? And it's like, well, actually, this is where the AI transhuman agenda comes into it from a really negative perspective. Your minds get uploaded to service droids to serve the, well, they're not really elites at this point, are they? They're just psychos. And they're, you know, the fat capitalist man and his 20-year-old buxom action figurine who's been holed up in an apartment somewhere, gets to interact with the poor unwashed masses as artificial mind replicas operating Sophias and Sophia bots and whatever else. So the sort of sexism of that is telling even the name of a ancient Essene goddess has been disabused by the robotics community to objectify women, and yeah, so it's sick. Anyway, if there's any truth to that, that's sick, very very sick. And then there's the thing that they don't associate with that you might need to take into consideration. It's called the Order of the Nine Angles. Okay, so why would the Order of the Nine Angles have any association with the Dark Enlightenment stuff? Well, let's get into it. Some people are of the opinion that a political or a political movement or technological movement such as that has an esoteric parallel somewhere. And the esoteric parallel is probably the Order of the Nine Angles. So if you have a look at that one's Wikipedia page, what it'll basically tell you is that there's a group of people who believe in hyper-racism as well. Of course, white men are at the top. And they believe that things like murder and child abuse and horrible crimes are a bit like the eggs getting smashed to make omelettes. Get over it. Get over it. Okay, we can't have rainbows without rain. Okay, so they think they what you might call honour the psychopaths and encourage the bad behaviour because in the hopes of the rainbow to come after the rain, basically, and the omelettes to come after the smashed eggs. Okay, and that's a very polite way of looking at it. What they also do, that is the most positive thing that can be said about it. Actually, it's actually a bit darker than that. Okay, that was the positive spin on it. Not as dark as it gets. What follows from that after that is that in that worldview is they have these other beliefs apparently where they believe that white race being superior is going to achieve technological mastery, and the end goal is to have a galactic civilization where they have great big spaceships, and yeah, niggers and Jews will come along with them eventually, but they'll be white dominated because they're the smart ones that can build that fucking crap. And also, Hitler was a good guy, so get stuffed. And so they engage in what you might call satanic practices, or seer or witchcraft. By the way, not making any comments about witchcraft more generally, or magic more generally, not saying it's a good or bad thing, because sometimes it can be a very good thing. Nonetheless, satanic seer is, the word satanic is more commonly associated with awful, so that's what's being used. We're not making any position on other branches of Satanism when we say this, because there is awareness that other branches of Satanism think the ONA is disgusting. Okay, the point being there is that the ONA is to Satanism what the Dark Enlightenment is to what you might call people who like technology and science. Fuck you, that's disgusting. Okay, there is no science. To be fair, there is no science in the Dark Enlightenment. Racial theories of intelligence or economic theories of intelligence just don't apply. Intelligence is comprehended to be a much more complex phenomena than well, you obviously got the rewards, so you must be smart. It doesn't take into consideration things like some people actually forego economic advancement or achievement in favour of other types of achievement. It's similar to a vow of poverty that a nun or a priest might take, or a monk of a different religion. They could be people that would have economic attainment, but they have chosen not to. And just because in the Catholic hierarchy, once they ascended, they achieve economic attainment as well, is beside the point, isn't it? Okay? Because, they've got to have their cake and eat it too eventually. But anyway, just a joke. But there are people who genuinely prefer to not be wealthy, and prefer to achieve in other areas, and that doesn't say anything about their IQ. There are also a lot of people who are very intelligent who are unable to achieve economically because of structural inequality being a very real thing. And why structural inequality a real thing? Don't know. Maybe guys like that. Anyway, guys like that could be getting in the way, just quietly, okay? Them sitting there to hold the purse fucking strings and fucking say, you can't have it, yeah, okay, probably might have something to do with it, okay? Anyway, so, it's real words were never spoken. Anyway, yeah, so, the great apocalypse revealing that we're experiencing is just rich people laughing in our faces. Okay, more than anything else. It's also a whole bunch of other things, but it starts with rich people laughing in our faces. Look what we can do, hey. Right, okay, puerile, very, very puerile. Okay, so the rich people are puerile, and the poor people are not puerile. Well, that's not really true, because puerility, as in not like see, this is where your moral concerns and sort of kidifying people with aberrant or just straight up missing moral compasses becomes really insulting, because if you saw a kid smack another kid and the kid cried, the kid that did the smacking would cry and say, "Didn't want to hurt you. Are we still friends?" Okay, right? Okay? Those guys aren't like that. They don't have a moral compass, okay? We're talking about people who don't know the consequences of their actions, or if they hit someone, it hurts them, like a child, okay? Their mentality is innocent. They don't actually comprehend right from wrong. They don't comprehend the force that their head is capable of. They don't know things like that. So But they do have moral compass because they don't want to be bad. They don't want to hurt anyone. They want to be friends. They want everyone to get along. So they just don't know how to. Okay, and so the objective of the adults it should be to guide them to develop that moral compass, so they can have lots of friends and have a cool, happy life. Okay, so um, um, these guys that you're talking about, when you're talking about those particular things, they're very much adults. Um, and they have a lot of adult level ideas, okay? Um, just because you might have seen South Park and seen Cartman try to start the Fourth Reich, it doesn't, you probably, if you were being truthful about it, would probably never find an 8-year-old that would have even heard of it. Typically, studies of modern history occur at about year 9 or year 10. And often the families who are survivors of various and sundry global atrocities, who might be migrants to other countries, probably don't tell their kids why Nana and Pop has a weird tattoo or whatever, or keeps crying about some arsehole called Pol Pot, okay, or whatever it might be, okay. They might they might dry their eyes and say, when you're older, you're not okay. When you're older, okay, you just go have an we're just glad you're not exposed to that. Don't ask Nana and Pop what they're crying about. You don't ask Mum and Dad what they're crying about. Just go play. When you're bigger, we'll talk about it then. Okay, so even then, usually people wait until they're adults, or young adults and ready to learn about certain things. So you're probably going to find that an 8-year-old is not going to start the Fourth Reich. But to say that some aspects of their behaviour is Cartman-like in the sense that they have toxic entitlement and they expect to always get what they want is kind of fair. But it's not coming from arrested development type issues or stereotypes or misplaced jargon from psychology like that, which is often misused. Um, it's definitely strongly associated with a form of cultural conditioning that goes beyond what you might call braininess. Um, these are people that sometimes report things like actually having very strict parents who were emotionally abusive in some cases, and which raises some interesting questions about why they went and turned in that direction, because you would expect a Butters out of that, not a Cartman, and yet a Cartman's what you got. So um, Butters having no sense of toxic entitlement whatsoever, and just being a little bit angry that he got maltreated, is not what those guys are doing. To use the South Park analogy, and what they're doing is expressing a toxic entitlement that can only come from cult conditioning. It is cult behaviour. They are operating in a cartel. They have been operating in accordance with the patterning associated with with fascistic cults. They are operating in a pattern that is consistent with a worldview that suggests that they might believe that you have to have the rain to get the rainbows and so on and so forth. They they do. There is, I mean, to point this out, there is a definite parallel to draw with the spaceship thing. Mr. Musk, being the guy with the rockets, um, 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 has been known to say things like an AI apocalypse is coming to 20-something-year-old petite bourgeois women, and in the hopes of attracting Fanny. And just because it allegedly succeeded a few times, we don't know how many times. He was probably too drunk or too stoned on ketamine to even notice whether or not anything happened, and she might have just said so because he's a gold digger. The point being, though, is that he is involved in some kind of worldview which tries to claim that everyone's going to have to move to Mars because, and so he should do this, that, or the other. So, on one hand, you can dismiss that as the rants of a confused lunatic. On the other hand, you can see that if you combine the hyper racism with the spaceship thing, and everyone's going to join a galactic to go off planet type of thing, and even the Hitler Nazi salute, Hitler-esque Nazi salute on Martin Luther King Day, a presidential inauguration on 2025. You start to see a trend with Mr. Musk that makes him look like he's ONA. We're not entirely sure if that's AI transhuman agenda so much as it's ONA, Order of the Nine Angles. He has the support of Hitler, the sort of double agency style, smash things up, go in there and smash it up type of thing. Have a spaceship type of logic, apocalyptic worldview type of idea is very much ONA. He's been behaving like a member of the Order of the Nine Angles. Which is quite interesting considering the Wikipedia page for the Order of the Nine Angles was stating something along the lines of the ONA was attempting to recruit members through computer games, so online computer games. And what's really interesting is that Mr. Musk is an online computer gamer. So was it the case that Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy that allegedly attempted to assassinate Mr. Trump during the 2024 election, was an online gamer from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who may have been associated with, however indirectly, with members of the Order of the Nine Angles, or at the very least was subjected to their propaganda? The answer is probably yes. So to suggest that there's some kind of relationship between Curtis Yarman's Dark Enlightenment principles and the Order of the Nine Angles is not a far bow to draw. Whether or not it's also associated with the AI transhuman agenda is a completely different story. There is reason to believe that there is technology around that usually appears as a blue light. And the blue shield from Tesla is not quite what that is, but it might be the attempt to technologify a similar idea, which is basically a type of warning system, blue crystal grid that the New Ages talk about. And that job is to remove entities associated with what's called the astral clearinghouses. So sometimes in the astral clearinghouses associated with the blue grid, you might get individuals or entities through Ezekiel wheels and whatever other issues people are going through, Tesseract cubes, Saturn cubes, so on and so forth, that may have become confused as a consequence of the interactions between bilocation mirrors and their environment, or other issues, including activity from the Order of the Nine Angles, or the Dark Enlightenment people, that could cause confusion. So it might actually be the case that the intention of the AI transhuman agenda was not really transhumanism in a sense of becoming aliens from outer space or whatever. It might have been to use technology to find a way to move entities to their correct location. In other words, it's technomancy. So the purpose of the AI transhuman agenda is that their equivalent could be technomantic, which isn't quite the same thing. Now, if you were to sort of have the ideas of the ONA and the ideas of the Dark Enlightenment imprinted within the AI transhuman agenda, then you would get a problem. You'd probably get what you call the crypto-fascists emerging on places like 4chan, with egregores like Keck and stuff like that, causing issues for Donald Trump specifically. So the United States can thank Canoe for removing the Keck egregore from Mr. Donald Trump, as well as a couple of other demonic attacks that he was experiencing. Mr. Trump was a hyper-conservative man for many years before that, and a very racist and sexist individual as well. he probably would subscribe to some of the ideas from the Dark Enlightenment, not all of them. Probably the racism part a little bit. Not sure about the biodiesel thing. But he probably wouldn't support the ONA on the grounds that it's satanic. And he's from the Christian nationalist faction. So Christian nationalism is something that is easily commandeered by groups like the ONA because they both believe in a in-group, out-group reality where the in-group is better than the out-group. And that's where you have the problems. So, among other things. And also Donald Trump is a whore for money, as anyone would notice if you haven't noticed that. So being a whore for money means that corruption is going to be endemic. He's already signed away people's rights to the tech bros in his first executive orders. Remember, they are a cartel that's greater than Musk, larger than Musk, and not all of those individuals necessarily share the Dark Enlightenment or ONA principles. But you can rest assured that at least some of them do, and those ideas are mirrored, most likely in the ONA, and that's a very dangerous group, a small sect of approximately, they reckon about 20,000 people internationally, and they've been causing a significant amount of hassle. And as a consequence, you'll probably find that unless Mr. Musk has come under their influences, he would probably be opposed by now. Have a nice day.